Port Charles had weathered storms before: mob wars, hospital sieges, long-lost twins, and betrayals that split families in half. But nothing prepared the town for the truth that was about to detonate like a bomb in the middle of General Hospital's pristine atrium. The truth about Curtis Ashford. The truth he had buried for decades. The truth that he was not the father of one secret child, but two. And Portia Robinson's child? That was only the beginning. Curtis Ashford had always been a man of quiet strength, the kind of man who carried himself with discipline and a soldier's sense of honor. A former DEA agent, a private investigator, a husband, a father, and now a respected figure in Port Charles, Curtis believed he had faced the darkest parts of his life and survived. But lately, sleep had become a luxury. Every night, the same dream. A woman's face blurred by tears, a baby's cry echoing in the distance, and his own voice whispering, "I'm sorry. I didn't know." He would wake in a cold sweat, his heart pounding, the memory clawing its way back to a time before Portia, before Trina, before the life he had built. A time when he had been young, reckless, and desperate to escape the shadow of his criminal family. A time when one mistake would follow him forever. Or so he thought. It began with a letter. Not an email. Not a phone call. A handwritten envelope slipped under the door of his office at the Savoy, written in elegant but trembling script. Curtis stared at it for a long moment before opening it, a strange sense of dread settling in his gut. Inside, a single page. Curtis Ashford. You once told me the truth always finds its way into the light. It's time you face yours. The child you never knew about is alive. And he is not the only one. His breath caught. The child you never knew about. Curtis' mind immediately went to Trina. To Portia. To the years of lies and half-truths that had already nearly destroyed his family once. But the letter wasn't talking about Trina. It was talking about a child even older. A child conceived long before he ever set foot in Port Charles. And then the final line hit him like a sledgehammer. He has a sister. 2 children. His children. The signature was just an initial, M. But Curtis knew exactly who it was. Maya Brooks. The woman he had loved in secret while working undercover years ago in Chicago. A woman whose life had been tangled in crime, danger, and betrayal. A woman he had walked away from in order to protect her. And himself. A woman who had vanished without a trace. A woman who had been pregnant when he last saw her. At the time, he had never known. Or maybe, he had suspected and buried the truth so deeply that he convinced himself it wasn't real. Now, decades later, she was back. And she was ready to expose everything. Portia Robinson had learned to read Curtis the way a doctor reads a heart monitor. She noticed the slightest change in his breathing, the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes darkened when something troubled him. And lately, something was very wrong. He was distant, distracted, guarded. One night, as they sat in the quiet of their living room, she finally confronted him. "Talk to me," she said softly. "Whatever it is, we've been through worse." Curtis hesitated. His jaw tightened. This isn't just about us," he finally said. "It's about who I was before I became the man you know." Portia's heart skipped a beat. "What are you saying, Curtis?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. A text message. "They are in Port Charles. Both of them. Tomorrow, you will meet your son and your daughter." Portia watched the color drain from his face. "Curtis," she whispered. "Who is they?" He swallowed hard. "My children." The next day, Curtis stood in the atrium of General Hospital, his pulse roaring in his ears. He had agreed to meet Maya. And the children. When the elevator doors opened, time seemed to stop. A young man stepped out first, tall, athletic, with Curtis' unmistakable eyes and the same guarded intensity in his gaze. Behind him came a young woman, her posture proud, her expression wary, her face a mirror of Curtis' own strength. And between them, Maya, older, worn by life, but still unmistakably the woman he had once loved. "This is your son, Isaiah," she said softly. "And this is your daughter, Nia." Curtis couldn't breathe. They were real. Flesh and blood. His flesh and blood. I didn't know, he whispered. I swear to God, I didn't know. Maya's eyes filled with tears. You should have looked for me. I thought you were gone. I thought you were safer without me. Isaiah's voice cut through the air like a blade. So you just disappeared? You left my mother to raise us alone, to fight, to survive, while you built a perfect life. Curtis felt every word like a punch to the chest. As if the moment weren't explosive enough, Maya dropped another bomb. You think this is the first time your past has caught up with you? She asked, glancing toward Portia, who had just arrived, having followed Curtis in fear. You already know what it's like to discover you're a father when it's almost too late. Portia's child was just the beginning. Portia froze. What do you mean, just the beginning? She demanded. Maya met her gaze. He has spent his whole life learning that secrets destroy families. And now, the truth is about to destroy yours, too. Isaiah stepped forward, his voice shaking with controlled anger. My mother told us everything. About the man who loved her. About the man who walked away. About the man who never knew he had a son, and then a daughter 2 years later. Nia crossed her arms. We didn't come here for money. We didn't come here for revenge. Then why? Curtis asked hoarsely. Isaiah met his eyes. We came for answers. We came to know the man who abandoned us. And we came because our lives are in danger. The words sent a chill through the room. Maya nodded. The same people you were investigating all those years ago? They never stopped looking for you. And now, they've found us. Within hours, the news spread. Curtis Ashford had 2 adult children. The respected PI. The devoted husband. The man who had already navigated one shocking paternity revelation. Now this. Jordan was stunned. Trina was confused and hurt. Taggart was furious that more secrets had been kept. Portia felt her world tilt on its axis. 2 more children, she whispered to Curtis later that night. How many ghosts are still out there? Curtis took her hands, his voice breaking. I never wanted to lie to you. I didn't know. And now I'm terrified of what the truth is going to cost us. Isaiah and Nia weren't just ordinary young adults. Isaiah had followed in Curtis' footsteps, becoming a federal agent. Nia, brilliant and fearless, was a journalist investigating organized crime. Both were unknowingly circling the same enemies Curtis had made decades ago. Enemies who didn't forget. Enemies who didn't forgive. And now, those enemies knew exactly who to hurt. As Curtis stood between Portia and the children he had just met, the weight of his past finally crashed down on him. 2 lives he had missed. 2 souls shaped by his absence. 2 hearts that carried his blood and his strength. Portia's child had shattered him once. This truth would shatter him again, and then force him to rebuild from the ashes. Because Curtis Ashford was no longer just fighting for himself. He was fighting for his family. All of them. And in Port Charles, nothing would ever be the same again.